Welcome everybody back to my channel, Super Sam 7. In this video, we're looking at Detective Comics issue 167. The cover shows Batman and Robin as bodyguards for Cleopatra. This cover did not grab my attention, so I'm going to talk about it to see if I was right. This issue cover date is January 1951. The Batman story is titled Bodyguards to Cleopatra, written by Bill Finger, penciled by Dick Spring, and inked by Charles Paris. When an Egyptian frieze is unveiled at the Gotham Museum by Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson is shocked when it shows a bat signal shining out of a pyramid. To figure this out, Bruce and Dick go to a doctor, hypnotist, and travel back through time to ancient Egypt. I'll explain that later. When they land there, they are grabbed by the workers and forced to help build the pyramid for a bit. Eventually, they are led to Cleopatra. When they are dressed as Batman and Robin, she tells the heroes that her chief needs help in defending her from attacks. Robin points out a board of criminals and states that it's probably the first rogues gallery in history. The first attempt on Cleopatra's life is a snake in a box being delivered to her, and Robin points out that if it was a modern day, it would have probably been a bomb. The next attack is having a leopard leap at Cleopatra, but Batman saves her again, and there's a funny moment where Cleopatra praises Batman, saying that he will be her king, and it makes Batman nervous while Robin is laughing at him. There is a panel in here that shows how pyramids were built back then without the machines of the 20th century. This was a cool thing to add into the story, and throughout the story, Robin asks questions about how things worked back in ancient Egypt, and finds the explanations as they stay in this time. Batman and Robin save a boat, and their leader looks like Commissioner Gordon. What a coincidence they meet Gordon's double here, and he works for Cleopatra as her chief. Batman gets a fingerprint of the culprit, and with two suspects, gets each one's fingerprint by having them touch hot wax. But the chief's assistant messes it all up by melting the wax more, erasing their fingerprints. Their servant is never seen, but surprisingly, the servant seems as clumsy as Chief O'Hara from Batman 1966, which didn't premiere until 15 years later. There's a character called Kara, and he's the man trying to kill Cleopatra, and Batman socks him in the face before he and Robin get trapped in the pyramid by a closing door. I'm going to assume Kara lived and didn't get smushed in between the moving door and the wall. Also, Kara exposed himself as the killer, as Batman didn't have any real clue to distinguish between the two suspects he had left. Anyway, to escape the pyramid, Batman takes a scarab he got earlier and sends a flashing SOS signal. So the mystery is solved. The Bat Shadow was caused by a one-of-a-kind scarab with its wings extended. Yeah, I had no idea what the answer would be when I was reading this. Let me talk about this. This is probably the most interesting thing to Batman fans nowadays. Vicky Vale, the crime photographer, makes an appearance in here, and she still suspects that Bruce and Dick are Batman and Robin. She's only in these two panels. She is in a good situation for herself, where Bruce Wayne himself unveils a mysterious bat symbol, and Bruce here is actually in awe of how that bat signal could appear all these centuries ago. I really like that the resolution came from going deep into Bruce's subconscious. At least that's what I took from this comic. Like, he had the answer in the back of his mind all along because of all of his extensive knowledge of research. Now, like I said, I was going to talk about this doctor called Carter Nichols. Carter Nichols is a reoccurring character in Batman comics at this time. He's had 28 appearances, and I don't think he's ever become a villain. His stick is that he's developed the means of displacing physical bodies into the time stream by way of hypnosis. So this was really more of a fun story that didn't have anything really happen in the real timeline, but anyway. And now let's look at another story in here starring Robot Man. The story is fully created by Frank Bull. It's called The Captured Brain. And I haven't said this in a while. When I'm talking about Robot Man in the early Detective Comics issues, I'm talking about another one that is not part of the Doom Patrol. This Robot Man is part of All-Star Squadron. His real name is Robert Crane. Okay, time for the story. At a lecture Robot Man is giving, because he was there as they're, being celebrated as a beloved hero to downtown, he gets a metal box that is said to have a clue to a crime he needs to guard. He opens it up later, and a radioactive mineral that was inside of it hits him. It was a trap. His metal body is now being poisoned. Robot Man runs back to his lab and detaches his head, since his brain is inside of it, and gets rid of his breaking down lower body. Turns out the man who did this to him followed him back home. Now he, the villain of the issue, who is never given a name, is going to shoot Robot Man in the brain, and it will be very easy to do now. Or so he thinks, because literally in the next page, the story wraps up very quickly. The fastest wrap up of a comic I've reviewed at this time. Robot Man moves one of his arms to wrap up his foe, and the bad guy stumbles down a well and dies. This story really just showed me more of what Robot Man's body can do, and I for one never knew he was celebrated by a town he protected like he was at the beginning of the story. It was a quick read, nothing really important happened. It was only 6 pages. The Batman story was okay. I actually liked learning about how things worked back then compared to now. But I still think the cover for this issue sucks. And I don't really know about Cleopatra, even after reading this issue. And I know it's not a history book at all, but I'm just saying. They explained how the pyramids were built. The Robot Man story was also a little bit bad. I mean, I would just say it's a 5 out of 10 Robot Man issue. Not bad, definitely not good. Anyway, thank you for watching my little review.